You know how it is. Sometimes things go well, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they go better, sometimes even more so. And right now, things are going pretty well for me. I'm on a big streak, a series of take profits, so I'd like to share some of them with you. What exactly did I find on the chart? What made me do it, and how nicely it works, you know. Here we were on the GBP JPY currency pair on the 1 hour time frame. There was an uptrend, but it had an important zone, and I was speculating a bit because even though there was a retest here from the hourly perspective, from the daily or weekly perspective, there actually wasn't a retest at all. It will always just make some swings, but the retest of that zone itself never actually happened. So I was speculating a bit that it might occur, and this was from the higher time frame. I took advantage of that by entering on the lower time frame, on the hourly time frame. What did I find here? I found just one leg, another leg, a swing, two beautiful swings. Now the pullback, the tensioning of the bow, the shot, a beautiful impulsive breakout through the zone. Yeah, now the price dropped. And I was already setting up a pending order in some way, but I saw that this, for me, together is an engulf. Yeah, it's a bullish candle, more like a doji, but more like a doji and a falling candle. Together, it's an engulf. Actually, after engulfing that signal, the candle, it's engulfing, is that right? The engulfing of that candle is a strong signal. That means even at that time, I was already planning here to add those 3 pips for the whole signal, you know. I didn't just take into account the breakout candle, but that downward movement and that zone gave me enough room that I could afford to go further. If I hadn't had this space here, then really, yeah, if this swing down was lower, I would have been forced to tighten the stop loss a bit. I would have put it behind the breakout candle, which is pretty standard for me. Then I would have gotten stopped out. It's entirely possible that good fortune played a significant part here as well. Indeed, it's quite possible. It's possible that, you know, some sixth sense where we've already experienced a few things in the markets. So it's possible that this situation has actually happened many times before. And I just don't remember this particular instance, and something in the back of my mind was telling me, hey, better put it behind the whole signal. And it really paid off. It's possible that it's a combination of both of these things. I really don't know. This is my trade that worked out beautifully. I was speculating towards that zone. Initially, this swing showed it to me. And secondly, that higher level from the time frame. And here, just to show you, this is what the trade looked like on the platform. Yeah, this is exactly how it looked on the platform. One leg, the other leg, an impulsive breakout, and a retest. Here I set it a few pips beyond the entire signal. Once I broke out in a sweat, got nervous, then it happened again. I broke out in a sweat, got nervous, and then there was some fundamental event. I think it was this one, but yeah, here you can see it without the fundamental event until somewhere around here. The fundamental event happened, which filled my order perfectly, just perfectly. Let's take a look at another trade I made, which was on the euro dollar. Here, for me, it's clear. Again, yeah, it's a clear uptrend. I usually go in the direction of the trend. I try to go with the trend. I simply have a higher success rate when I stick with the trend. And here, the trend is quite obvious. It's not disrupted. It even created a beautiful zone for me here. This is literally a textbook case. This is something for the classroom. I'm going to take a screenshot of this as a case study for class, because this is it. This is exactly what you want to see. This is exactly the setup, the top setup that I want to trade, you know. We broke through this main level here again from a higher time frame. Now, we've been hitting some local zone. That zone is breathing, you know. Those swings aren't just crawling along the zone and, in my eyes, eating up my orders. But they tried the first time, the second, the third, the fourth, and on the 5th attempt, there was a beautiful break. Now came that quick retest. This is what I often talk about, that I like it when I see the price quickly retest, but then it actually runs away with the price moving up, you know? For me, that's a kind of confirmation that the zone is really packed with orders, because it immediately bounced the price away, and then it moves upward, and then a natural correction occurred. And here, at this stage, I kind of thought that it had already run away, but I told myself, well, the retest still hasn't happened yet. I'll leave the pending order there. And soon enough, the pending order was filled, and ta-da, I got a nice take profit. The trade then looked like this in a platform, right on that zone. That's the zone. Impulsive breakout, quick retest. The price reached, I had my stop loss set just below the breakout candle, right? That's here. Again, I don't place it directly behind the breakout candle. I always leave a little bit of breathing room. Here it was kind of unnecessary, but the habit, the routine I have, I just do it like this everywhere. And I can say that many times that 1 or 2 pips have saved my trade. Yeah, I just put it a few pips behind for a reason. I take volatility into account, meaning whether it's the euro or the pound or whatever it is I'm actually trading. And here again, it nicely hit my take profit. And now I want to show you one more trade. That was USDJPY. That was a bit of a trade. I don't really like doing V-shaped moves, and what should you consider a sharp V and what shouldn't you? So here I actually had both opportunities on the chart, and this is what I consider a sharp V. It's just like a crazy rocket. It shoots up, the price rises quickly, and then it starts falling back down just as fast. But it's basically a series of more dominant candles. These aren't weak moves. You can really see the volatility. You can see the money that's moving the market. And then it probably hits some profit taking or reaches a certain level where the price reverses and then drops sharply again. So that's you could maybe compare it to a falling knife. I consider this to be a really sharp H pattern. This little tail here, even though it looks like a V, I'm not afraid of this small V at all. You know, what worries me is the long one, the bigger one. I actually struggle myself to put a name to it. It's really hard when you have a certain feeling, but you can't quite put it into words. So I had trouble naming this. What exactly is it that bothers me about it? And I think it just has to be a big move. That it's not about a small move. A small V just doesn't really bother me, you know? So again, here, right? There's some situation, and now I had a clear downtrend, you know, just lower highs, lower lows. We were going downwards. Here I just found a nice zone again, which isn't anything particularly great. You know, it's not like it was some big swing. It wasn't a big swing, but it kind of reminded me of a double bottom. Yeah, we were falling from that double bottom. We bounced off, made some. We reversed the trend, the falling one, and came up here. Basically, it did what it was supposed to. That one-to-one move is clearly there. It had a double top, and that's it. But there's still that neckline left, the lower and upper part. Now we've impulsively, beautifully broken through it. I entered here on that retest, and I was already heading down. When I later reviewed this trade, I realized I hadn't actually broken any rules, but I was wondering why the price didn't react in my zone. It reacted a little higher. Apparently, what happened was that this was actually the neckline of the double bottom, and it seemed to react more to the neckline than to my zone. That made me a bit disappointed. I really believed that this zone would hold. Even from the left, the zone was at a pretty similar level. It didn't hold. It went through that zone, reached this level, and only then did it go down. So again, I was a bit, not exactly nervous, but the stop loss wasn't the kind where the zone would work out perfectly. You know, this isn't one of those cases. Sometimes it does work out like that. Unfortunately, this time it didn't. How did the trade turn out in reality? I'll show you again. It looked like this. Yeah, the price reached one leg, the second leg, and here was the neckline, which really did its job. And you could do it again. Yeah, here I have a star again. Yeah, here you see a star, a bullish candle, an indecisive candle, and a bearish candle. A beautiful strong star, and again I placed my order behind the whole, actually behind the swing, but it wasn't really intentional to put it behind the swing. It was behind the pattern of that star. A beautiful bearish star that confirmed the breakout through the zone for me. Then there was an impulsive move, a beautiful single candle. We made that swing here. And from the H4 perspective, I didn't really take this swing into account anymore, meaning that I should have set my take profit below this swing. If I had done that, I would have exited the trade much earlier. On the other hand, I probably wouldn't have been able to stick to the 2-to-1 money management rule, which I really strictly follow. Here, maybe I would have had to tighten the stop loss, and then I would have fit within the rule, but I would have gotten stopped out here. So this setup, once again, worked out beautifully, just as I had planned it, without any interference, without messing around with the trades. It just worked out perfectly, hit the take profit. And these weren't the only trades. There was, I noticed here, although I didn't take them, there was a beautiful trade here, GBUSD. Again, the principle is just clear. We have a zone, we have a zone. Now here, once again, we have a touch. It drew the bow, shot through it with a single candle. These situations are just beautiful. It returned back to this zone and then it started moving downwards. We place it behind the breakout candle. Yes, behind the whole thing. Even though this is, yes, the whole thing is actually, once again, an engulf. And here you could, again, stick to placing it behind the engulf. The stop loss is placed behind the entire pattern, behind the candlestick formation as such. I didn't take this trade. Again, I have my reasons because I was actually trading EUR, USD long, and I consider these two currency pairs to be highly correlated. The correlation between these two currency pairs is really quite significant. So even though you could have traded here, the correlation isn't 100%. It has some percentage of shared movement. First of all, simply because the dollar is involved, that's already a reason in itself. That's one of the reasons. But I just couldn't do it in my head again. It's the mind that's to blame. You know, if I had followed the strategy, I could have taken another 2R here. I didn't take these 2Rs because I just wasn't able to trade such different positions in my head going long here and short there on such a highly correlated pair. Instead, I chose to trade the euro dollar, which got me to take profit. Even though the situation was clear, it was my mindset again that was to blame, and I ended up missing out on 2Rs here completely unnecessarily. All I had to do was follow the strategy, stick to my trading plan, and proceed according to the trading plan. Again, someone might say it was experience guiding me well. In this case, it was some experience, that's true. But on the other hand, my mind immediately jumped in and planted that seed of doubt about this trade. Yeah, it instantly reminded me of that situation in Croatia. I'm not going to cry here over 2Rs. Not at all. I just didn't stick to it. I didn't take it, you know. If you don't give, you don't get. That's just how it is. I also didn't take a really nice trade here, somewhere on GBP, AUD. I didn't take it. I had other trades open, but again, it was just a beautiful setup. Here it's simply a zone. We're hitting the zone. There was some day here. This is also quite a resistance from a higher time frame, which has its reason. You can speculate on it from a higher time frame that there will be a bounce off that resistance. That means when I see a resistance in the way and I see that it's important, that it's automatically strong, and as long as it's not threatened and it's not, say, the 6th or 8th time that resistance is being tested, I expect some kind of bounce off that resistance. So even directionally, selling here was totally fine. I had no problem with going a bit against the trend since we came from below, but precisely because of that bounce off the resistance, it was possible to speculate, at least on this part, that taking a short here would be no problem. And again, there was some bounce here, a bounce tension, and then the price shoots up beautifully and impulsively just in a single candle. That's what we want to see in the market. That's it. Let's trade here and another 2Rs, gone. Just like that. Again, I didn't take them, you know, just a mistake. Right now, it's really important not to slack off, to really sit at the charts, to actually trade this. Here was a beautiful pullback. It worked perfectly at the zone, a perfect sell, and that's exactly it. Yeah, the zone worked perfectly here. There was absolutely no risk at all. Of course, I picked the ones where all the stop losses were at risk, and here it was clean, just no threat to the stop loss. It just picked up beautifully at the zone and moved nicely in our favor. Take profit again. Money management 2-to-1. Yeah, that was another beautiful trade. Yeah, and I had one more trade where I was in for a long time. I think about 14 days. I was just in it for a long time. And that was Auto EPI. That one was long, really long. I entered that one from the H4 chart. Whenever I entered on the H4 chart, it's not really a trade for like I just don't consider my entry on the H4 as an intraday trade anymore. It's just not. But it's supposed to be, yeah, an intraday trade, but for me, it just isn't. And you can see what happened on the H1, right? It's just that sideways movement, up, down, up, down. It's not like the H4 can get you to take profit within an hour or two. Unfortunately, that just wasn't the case for me this time. But again, I'm moving nicely upwards. What I have behind me here is more like a false break, especially from the H4. Beautiful. Just a beautiful thing. A retest here of a nice zone, and then it started to consolidate. Yeah, I have my stop loss here because actually the entry was, let me show you here. So the entry was only after this candle, right? That means after this candle, and here the stop loss seemed to me to be in a safe enough spot. I didn't have to go behind the whole structure here because the signal already starts quite low, so the stop loss was completely fine and safe. So the standard was met. That means I put the stop loss behind the breakout candle, and at that point the price just moved sideways until, well, we finally hit the take profit. But honestly, poof, it took quite a long time. For my taste, it just took a long time. So that's just what these last few days have brought us. Of course, after the series of stop losses, more stop losses will come, and after the series of take profits, the stop losses will come again. So now I'm just waiting for next week, which I'm recording this on Sunday. So 100% this week, I'll take a hit, or maybe not 100%, but there's a high probability, and as a trader, I work with probabilities, that I'll get a stop loss now. So in that sense, I'm already a bit mentally prepared for it. And if I do get it, well, there won't be that big sadness, if you know what I mean. It'd be more like, well, that's behind me now. So that I can maybe get back into that streak of take profits again, you know. The distribution of those stop losses is sometimes random. So I don't know if it'll be the first, the second, or the third trade. I don't know. But when it comes, it won't be like, oh no, it's all screwed. Or finally, it's over. You know? It'll actually be the opposite. There won't be any angled source to market. It'll be more like, okay, we've gotten it out of the way. Now let's get back to those take profits. So that's just my mindset, how I have it set up in my head. Take care.